At one point, he was their savior, the man who offered refuge when the entire world turned against them. While the British Crown distanced itself and headlines branded them traitors, it was Tyler Perry who opened his gates. Literally. His Beverly Hills mansion became Harry and Meghan's fortress. His private jet flew them away from chaos. His bodyguards became their shield. And for a while, the fairy tale continued. No palace, no paparazzi, just peace. But in Hollywood, loyalty is a currency. And when that currency runs out, so does your name. Now, Tyler Perry's name is gone. Erased from Meghan's posts, deleted from mentions, scrubbed like he never existed. But Tyler isn't just any friend. He's the godfather of their child. And worse, he has a legal right to talk. Every photo, every message, every late-night call, all backed up, all protected, and all ready to blow the lid off the Sussex empire. If he speaks, this isn't just scandal, it's collapse, and it's already in motion. When Prince Harry and Meghan Markle detonated the royal playbook and fled the UK, they weren't just running from family. They were escaping an entire system. Tabloid firestorms, security threats, and royal cold shoulders left them stranded in a world that suddenly felt hostile. That's when Tyler Perry, Hollywood's billionaire mogul, did something extraordinary. He didn't just offer support, he offered shelter. His $18 million Beverly Hills estate became their hideout. His jet became their escape route. His security team stood at their gates. And Tyler? He became more than a host. He became family. Harry openly praised him. Meghan took it a step further. She named him godfather to their daughter, Lilibet. In royal culture, that's no small gesture. It's a sacred symbolic tie that says, "You're one of us." Netflix cameras captured the warmth. Smiles, baby gifts, promises of lifelong devotion. Perry spoke emotionally on screen, vowing to protect that little girl like his own. It wasn't just PR, it was real. Or at least, that's what everyone believed. But fairy tales don't last long in Hollywood. And behind the picture-perfect moments, a storm was already building, one that neither of them saw coming. Just when the Sussexes seemed to have found a safe haven, the ground shifted. Out of nowhere, Tyler Perry, the man who'd been praised as a protector, a godfather, even a lifeline, was hit with a bombshell lawsuit. Actor and former collaborator Derek Dixon filed a $260 million civil suit, accusing Perry of fostering a toxic and emotionally brutal work environment. Words like intimidation, abuse, and career sabotage were suddenly attached to the same man Meghan once called family. Overnight, the media narrative flipped. The beloved benefactor became the alleged tyrant. And what Meghan did next? That's where it got strange. She didn't issue a statement. She didn't show support. She didn't say anything at all. Instead, she went silent. But behind the silence, something even louder was happening. A digital erasure. Within hours, Perry's name vanished from Meghan's Instagram. His photos disappeared from her reels. Mentions of his role in Lilibet's life were deleted. Even subtle nods to his friendship evaporated like smoke. The press noticed. So did the fans. And social media lit up with a single, jarring question. Where's Uncle Tyler? No response came, no explanation, no defense of the man who once housed her during the darkest chapter of her life. And that silence, cold, calculated, and immediate, spoke louder than any press release. Because in Hollywood, when someone goes missing from your narrative, it's not an accident, it's a strategy. But what Meghan's team may have forgotten is that Tyler Perry never plays without a backup plan. And in this case, he had one written in black and white. At first, it felt like a glitch. A missing photo here, a quiet edit there. But soon, it was undeniable. Tyler Perry wasn't just absent, he was being erased. Meghan's social media, once peppered with subtle tributes to her chosen family, had been sanitized. The emotional christening post naming Perry as godfather, gone. Video clips of Perry beaming in interviews, talking about how honored he felt, vanished. Even third-party press articles that had once praised their unique bond started to disappear from curated lists and public references. It was like he'd never existed in their lives at all. Even more unsettling was the way it happened. Not with noise, not with confrontation, but with surgical silence. The kind of silence that feels rehearsed. The kind that makes people wonder what you're hiding. And while Meghan's public face remained composed, smiling for pastel wellness posts and polished lifestyle promos, the internet wasn't buying it. Screenshots began circulating, documenting the before and after of Perry's digital footprint in her world. Fans and critics alike began stitching together timelines. The consensus? The moment Perry became a liability, he was deleted. Not distanced, deleted. That subtle difference lit a fuse, because in Hollywood, perception is everything. And when you erase the man who protected your family, the same man who opened his home, gave you safety, and held your secrets, it doesn't look like strategy. It looks like betrayal. But Meghan's camp may have miscalculated, because Tyler Perry wasn't just a host. He was a witness, a trusted confidant, a godfather, and most importantly, a man who came prepared. Most celebrity feuds play out in headlines and social media subtweets. But Tyler Perry? He plays chess. And buried deep within the paperwork that made him Meghan and Harry's protector was a clause. One that now reads like prophecy. Everyone who stayed at Perry's mansion reportedly signed a confidentiality agreement. Standard Hollywood stuff. No leaks, no photos, no gossip. But there was one line, hidden in legalese, that now carries weight like dynamite. If either party publicly disowns the other, the non-breaching side has the right to speak. Not whisper, not suggest, speak. Legally. Fully. On the record. And when Meghan scrubbed his name from her story, some insiders say that clause lit up like a warning signal. Because to Perry's legal team, her deletion spree wasn't just a quiet PR move. It was a public disownment, and that changes everything. Suddenly, Perry wasn't bound by silence. If he chose to, he could speak freely. Not to settle scores, but to protect his own reputation. And that right includes the vault of materials he's been sitting on. We're talking text messages, voice memos, behind-the-scenes drafts, photos, emails, strategy calls. Moments captured not for revenge, but for protection. In case something exactly like this ever happened. What Meghan might have viewed as a clean break may have been the spark that frees Tyler Perry to blow the lid off everything. Because once that clause is triggered, the game changes. The man she erased could become the one voice she can't silence. Tyler Perry hasn't said a word publicly. Not a tweet, not a soundbite. But behind the scenes, the silence is deceptive because Hollywood insiders say the phones haven't stopped ringing. Producers, networks, media giants, all circling like sharks. They know the value of what Perry holds, and they know the audience is ready to devour it. Executives are offering blank checks, studio space, even airtime guarantees. One insider joked that if Perry talks, it could out-Oprah Oprah. And they're not wrong. This wouldn't be some vague, sugar-coated interview. Perry has the receipts. And he's meticulous. He documented everything. The panicked calls after explosive headlines, the late-night strategy sessions about the Netflix docuseries, even the whispered breakdowns behind closed doors in Montecito. He knows where the narrative was shaped and where it was spun. And now that Meghan's erasure of him may have triggered the NDA clause, he's holding the ultimate card, the legal right to reveal the truth. Not gossip, not hearsay. Truth backed by files, timestamps, screenshots, and memory. Sources say Perry feels not just betrayed, but insulted. To be so intimately involved in their escape, their branding, their rise, and then be treated like a liability to delete, that didn't just sting. It snapped something. And now his camp is testing the waters, measuring the appetite for the story. Spoiler, there's appetite, a lot. This wouldn't just be a juicy interview, it would be a reckoning. A moment where one of the most trusted names in entertainment tells the world exactly what happened, with proof. And if he does, nothing will be the same. The moment whispers of a potential Perry sit-down began to spread, Meghan's public persona underwent a transformation. Gone were the candid quotes and emotional tributes. In their place, pastel grids, garden teas, homemade recipes, wellness routines. Her Instagram turned into a polished sanctuary of positivity, the kind that screams distraction rather than authenticity. Behind the scenes, however, insiders say panic had set in. Brand consultants were pulled into emergency calls. PR firms worked overtime to flood her channels with polished content. Lifestyle blogs, skincare drops, empowering quotes, anything to shift the conversation. But it wasn't working. Comment sections ignored the lemon cake recipes. Instead, they kept asking one question: where's Tyler? The silence was deafening, and it was starting to cost her. One luxury fashion house quietly paused a campaign that featured Meghan, citing timing concerns. Sponsorships were being reevaluated. Brand sentiment scores, tracked by marketing analysts, started to dip, not because of the lawsuit, but because of what it revealed. Or more specifically, what Meghan didn't say. The optics were brutal. A woman who built her brand on loyalty, empowerment, and choosing family had seemingly ghosted the very man who gave her and Harry sanctuary. And the public was noticing. Her silence wasn't seen as grace, it was seen as cold calculation. Even worse, Meghan's legal team was scrambling. Sources say exploratory calls were made to assess what Perry could actually disclose. Could they block him? Challenge the NDA? The hard truth? Probably not. If Perry frames his response as defense of reputation, which legally he can, he's free to speak. And Meghan's team knows it. So now, behind every smiling photo and wellness tip, there's a mounting sense of dread. Because the man they're trying to erase may be the one holding the detonator. For those paying attention, Tyler Perry's sudden disappearance wasn't just shocking. It was familiar. Meghan's inner circle, once star-studded and tight-knit, has been quietly shrinking for years. Serena Williams, Jessica Mulroney, even Oprah. One by one, names that were once publicly celebrated began to fade from view the moment controversy crept too close. It's not just speculation. Social media sleuths have mapped it out. The celebratory posts, the shared milestones, the red carpet appearances, all drying up with eerie precision. And now, with Perry, it's the same script. One moment, he's the godfather of her child. The next, he's a ghost. But this time, it's different. Because Perry didn't just attend their parties, he built their shelter. He held their secrets. He walked with them through the fire, only to be deleted like a typo. And that quiet, clinical erasure is what's making people angry. Critics say it points to a strategy. Build alliances that serve the brand, then cut ties at the first sign of risk. It's not just ruthless, it's rehearsed. And for someone whose public image rests on authenticity and empowerment, that's dangerous territory. Even Harry's longtime friends are reportedly beginning to murmur. Former schoolmates and military comrades have started voicing frustration in private circles, confused by the revolving door of loyalty around the Sussexes. One confidant allegedly said, "It's starting to feel like everyone is disposable, except the brand." And now the world is watching Tyler Perry. Because if he speaks, he could confirm what many are already suspecting, that Meghan's loyalty isn't personal, it's strategic. And that her brand, built on empathy and truth, may be more image than substance. While Meghan's team raced to contain the storm, the mood inside the palace was very different, almost smug. Behind the gilded walls of Windsor, former aides who once warned Harry about Hollywood entanglements now sip tea and quote headlines with a raised brow. To them, this wasn't just drama, it was validation. Prince William's PR machine, long built on consistency and caution, has remained stone silent. And it's working. The contrast is stark. As Meghan scrambles to patch her image with Instagram filters and curated campaigns, William's team is quietly reaping the benefits of her unraveling. Even King Charles, who once agonized over the Sussex saga, now appears content to watch it implode from a comfortable distance. But the real tragedy may be unfolding in Montecito. Insiders say Harry is spiraling. One day he's furious, pacing, ranting about betrayal. The next, he's defeated, replaying old conversations with Perry in his head. He still remembers those nights when his calls to his father went unanswered, and it was Perry who picked up. That kind of loyalty doesn't disappear, but it does get drowned out by silence. And right now, Meghan's strategy is silence. She's not just distancing herself emotionally, she's building a legal firewall. Quiet calls to attorneys, private consultations, contingency plans if Perry talks. But there's a problem: the NDA clause that everyone once overlooked. If Perry interprets her public deletion as a disownment, he gets a green light, not just to speak, but to defend himself. And the moment that happens, the narrative slips from Meghan's hands. Because Perry wasn't a distant friend. He was in the room for meetings, breakdowns, strategy sessions. He knows not just the choices they made, but why they made them. And if Harry thought those moments would remain sacred, he's starting to realize they were recorded. And once that story is told, unfiltered, unrehearsed, undeniable, there may be no path back to the fairy tale. In Hollywood, silence is rarely empty. It's strategic, it's weaponized, and sometimes it's the sound just before everything explodes. Meghan Markle may have thought she was cutting a loose thread when she quietly erased Tyler Perry from her story. But what she may have done is pull the pin on a grenade. Because this wasn't just a friend. This was the man who handed them the shovels when they needed to bury their past. The man who watched them rebuild their image, brick by brick. And the man who, now pushed to the edge, holds the blueprints to everything they tried to construct. If Tyler Perry decides to speak, really speak, this won't be gossip. It'll be evidence. A timeline of trust built and broken. A first-hand account of how a narrative was shaped behind closed doors. And in that moment, the carefully curated empire Meghan has fought to preserve could begin to crack. From the inside. For Harry, the stakes are even higher. Because Perry wasn't just Meghan's ally, he was Harry's lifeline. The man who took their call when the palace went silent. The man who offered shelter when no one else would. And now, the man who might expose what that shelter truly cost. The public is watching, the networks are circling, the palace is smirking. And Tyler Perry? He hasn't said a word. But the silence is getting louder.